Welcome back. Dr. Karen Hult, professor and political science expert from Virginia Tech, is joining me now to break down this election. First of all, thank you so much for being here today. I know it's been a long election night last night.
For all of us, but thanks for having me.
It is. So, first we want to focus on Virginia. Nationally, was Virginia in play for this race, and are you surprised by the outcome?
It wasn't actually in play, I don't think, in the way that people thought about it at the time. What I think happened in Virginia last night, very little change at the national level, both in terms of who the presidential vote for and also the congressional races as well. But it was far narrower than many people thought. And so the kind of, if not a red wave, then certainly a red tide that happened across the country happened in parts of Virginia as well. In all the races, they were far tighter for the Republicans and Democrats moving forward. That happened in Virginia as too.
Sure, and and I know for a long time with this, we thought that the decision might not be made last night.
Exactly.
It could take a while. Were you surprised by the outcome, how fast it came in, and do you consider this a red wave? And how big is this for the GOP?
I want to wait for the House results before talking about the extent to which it is a wave, but certainly it was a dramatic event for the GOP when many of them thought, especially with the change at the top of the presidential ticket, it was going to be a far closer race than it ended up being. So that's clearly true. At the same time, I think it's important to remember that what happened nationally is what could have happened. A lot of the pollsters were saying the races were so close in all of the states within the margins of error. And so if they just swing one way or the other, as they clearly did in the blue wall states, for example, last night, you have the results we had today. The other thing that's taking place, which I think Representative Griffith talked about as well, is that there is a shift to the right among the national public generally. I think we saw that in Virginia too.
Absolutely, and we talked a little bit last night during our coverage too about nationalized politics.
Yes, of course.
And local politicians really aligning themselves with presidential candidates' strong party lines. Mm-hmm. How big of a role does that play in this?
Well, I think that's been true for quite a while, and it's been especially marked the last several years because as the country became more polarized, people were aligning with parties, but they also were aligning with almost tribes or groupings of people like them. And I think we saw in the last election especially where people in more rural areas or less densely populated areas that have felt left out by the national elites on both coasts became coalesced, and Mr. Trump spoke very effectively to them, it looks like.
Sure. And we saw that here in Southwest Virginia.
We did in Southwest Virginia and in various other parts of Virginia as well. Yes,
sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. And, lastly, I wanted to talk about some legal ramifications. What happens next now that President-elect Trump,
yes.
What happens next with his legal cases?
Well, I understand that Jack Smith in the Justice Department is walking back some of the criminal charges that are pending, and they understand with the change in the party in the White House, the head of the Justice Department will change as well, especially now that there's a Republican Senate, it looks like. Then a lot of those cases could well be dismissed or the Justice Department would just pull back. So those cases probably will, for the most part, disappear, although I think the documents case in Florida could still be alive. We'll see about that. But the case that will not disappear is what's going on in Georgia, and that's a state-level case. Also, the penalties for Mr. Trump in the New York guilty verdicts are going to go on. Whether those will get enforced, we don't know, because he can't serve time in prison if that's what the sentencing is while he's president.
All right, we've never dealt with this before.
We've never dealt with this before, as with so many things.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
As with so many things with election 2024.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for taking time to be here, for sharing your insight. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
John?